Hello, everyone. Ron Callis with One Firefly. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Automation Unplugged, brought to you by One Firefly. And it is currently 12:30 on Thursday, October 5th. No, your calendars are not mixed up. Yes, I did record a Automation Unplugged episode just yesterday on Wednesday. And wanted to get this real exciting guest, Chris Smith, in. We actually had some scheduling conflicts over the summer, and we were hoping to have him on earlier. But the way schedules worked out, he's available today, and so we are making it happen. So Chris is the VP of Business Development for Cloud9 Smart out of New York City. And let me go ahead and bring in Chris. Let's see if we get technology to cooperate. Chris, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, Ron. How are you?
I am doing very well. Thank you, Chris. I know you're a very busy man, and I appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your day to spend with me and my audience here at Automation Unplugged.
Thanks for having me, Ron. I think last time that you were scheduled to do this, you actually had some hurricane issues coming back, if I recall correctly.
There was that whole hurricane or multiple hurricanes heading towards Florida that disrupted business a bit. So I appreciate
Is everything going okay?
Yeah, we are. We're good, man. We're very blessed.
Good.
We're here in Southeast Florida, and, we dodged a bullet. Our friends in the Keys and, of course, on the West Coast, southwest coast of Florida, they got hammered pretty bad. And that Cat 5 storm was targeting Miami and Fort Lauderdale. And just in the last day or so, it dodged left and spared us. So, yeah, we made out okay. Thanks for acknowledging that.
Absolutely. I'm glad you guys are doing well.
All right, let's take a look, Chris, if you don't mind. Let me just take a look over here at our Facebook page. That is One Firefly LLC. And let me just see if the feed is coming through. Looks like it is. So let me acknowledge our viewers. Thanks for being out there. Thanks for watching. If you're watching right now, please like this this episode, and please share this with your friends and family or peers, just so that more folks out there can see the content. And additionally, assuming you catch us while we are live, please like and or comment. So if you have questions for Chris and you'd like any clarification about things that we're discussing, feel free, and I'll do my darndest to follow that and read those questions off to Chris real time. But Chris, let's jump in. I know you've got 30 minutes available here, so let's jump right into it. You have perhaps a more diverse background than some in this industry, and you've in fact worked on the manufacturing side of the equation. Can you give my audience just a little bit of clarification about your background and how you ended up landing in the audio-video industry?
Sure. I always had a passion for it. When I was quite young, I got into the kind of hi-fi and home theater side of things. I was actually working at a tool store at the time, selling supplies and tools to contractors. And a couple of guys came in to start outfitting their shop, and it turned out that they owned a home theater, audio, video, and automation installation company with a retail storefront. And we started to chat. They were pretty new. They weren't hiring anybody at the time. And shortly after that, we became more friendly, and I said, hey, I'd really like to work here. And they said, we'd love to have you. I don't even think I was 21 yet. Couldn't buy them beer. They sent me to go get them beer the first time, and didn't realize that wasn't going to work. And that started off my kind of love and passion for it. And I learned literally from the ground up, right? Running wires, installing systems, programming them. And it was a lot of fun. I learned an awful lot. And there was an opportunity that came up to go and work for Bowers and Wilkins. And it was a little business card sized ad. And it said, you must be willing to travel 3 weeks a month and move to Boston. I was a young guy, didn't have anything going on at the time. I said, this is great. Sounds like an adventure. And I picked up and I moved to New England from sunny Santa Barbara, California. And started working for Bowers. And I was traveling around the country visiting with dealers, installing a now defunct brand of automation. And when that happened, they moved me into doing regional sales. and I started calling on all of the dealers throughout the East Coast. And shortly after that, maybe about 5 or 6 years later, Macintosh came knocking, and they said there's an opportunity to manage some of the sales team. So I started doing that for Macintosh. It let me stay in New England, but I was then covering at one point half of the country, then managing the entire country for sales. And then it led me into doing actually a project here in Manhattan where Macintosh wanted to launch an experience center, a big townhouse. And so I was responsible for getting that up and running with a team of people. And at that point, I actually met Cloud9 Smart, the dealer that helped us install the lighting and the shades and all of the technology that went into the space. And as I got to know Fernando more and more, I'd had maybe about 10 or 11 years on the road, traveling 3 weeks a month and having no time to myself. Fernando had a great work-life balance at Cloud9 Smart. And I said, Fernando, why don't we talk about what I might be able to help you with? And he said, well, I really want someone who can come in and manage the sales, the marketing, the engineering team, and procurement and vendor relationships.
It kind of sounds like
it sounds like what I've been doing for the last 11 years, just learning from those dealers who do it really well. Right. And how about we put a composite sketch together of that? And I said, that sounds like a great opportunity. So now I'm at Cloud9 Smart and loving it.
Now, in terms of the official job title, I'm not big on titles, but many people are. And so VP of Business Development, that sounds like you're focused more on the sales side of things. Is that accurate, or are you more of an operations and sales role today?
It's a fantastic question. Titles don't mean much, right? I think Eric Tees over at in California has chief bottle washer, or whatever the title is, and I think that's great. VP of Business Development, right? So I think about it more in terms of actually developing the business, software systems, marketing plans, sales strategy, product selection, go to market. All of those types of things are more strategic oriented and planning oriented, and they that we use. But I don't just stop there. We also cover our engineering, project management, service department, all of those various facets of the business as well. So yeah, I think about it more in that kind of ops style role, with a function on the management side as opposed to the daily sales operations.
Now, Chris, a lot of the folks that are watching this video, whether live right now or in replay, are integrators themselves. They're either owner operators or they're at some level involved in the automation industry. So for that, can you give a little bit of perspective about Cloud9 Smart? Just some of the high level overview of that business. What is the size of the business? What type of stuff do you guys focus on? What markets do you serve?
Sure. Company is a little over 17 years old. We're about 35 people. We started, back in Florida, and shortly after that moved to New York City. We've been here ever since. We started off as a commercial integration firm. So we came from wire pulling, putting in networks, phone systems, conference rooms, managed services. We have a really strong IT background. And about 7 years ago, we launched a residential division of our company. And the residential division of that company focused on doing all the high-end smart home technologies, lighting, shades, audio, video, network control, climate, all those good things. And so we have this really diverse skill set that allows us to weather storms in an interesting way. Some companies focus just on one or the other. We like the idea that we have that diversity, and it allows us to present to a client and then follow through their lifestyle. So they have to go to work somewhere. How do we make the technology at their office better? They come home. How do we make the technology at home better?
Okay, understood. Now, I'm going to speak to our audience again. If you're out there watching, please like our post. Please share this feed so that others can appreciate the conversation and listen to Chris and hear what he has to say. That helps us increase the exposure of Automation Unplugged to the masses. So that's always a big help. Now, Chris, I think the way that maybe that you and I met, correct me if I'm wrong, was that Cloud9 Smart is a member of the Xeon buying group. And one of the, I think you volunteered for this role, but you correct me if I'm wrong, but you were involved in the Slack rollout for the Xeon group. So can you and you ended, and I'll talk more about Slack, and we've now, as a company, One Firefly, we moved entirely over to that platform as well, thanks to you. So that's a credit to your education that you gave me and the leaders on my team. But what is Slack, and how did you end up in that role as a helper or a leader, making that rollout for Xeon happen?
So we did meet at Xeon. It was actually, I believe, our very first conference with Xeon. And we've only been to a few. We're about to have our third from my perspective. One of the very first things I wanted to do was join a buying group. I thought it was really great to be able to share ideas and have a community. And when I went to the meeting, I believe it was in Las Vegas, the conversation centered around lots of really great topics. And we were only going to have 2 of these meetings a year. And I said, this is fantastic. I want to do this more. I don't just want to do it twice a year and only when we all get in the same room together. And there wasn't really a platform for us to share information back and forth between dealers, back and forth between vendors, or collectively as a group. And we started using Slack as a company. And immediately, when people said, how do we continue this conversation? Several people in the room shouted out Slack. And I'm a huge proponent of it. And so when it came time to do the rollout, if Slack's not implemented fundamentally in a correct way, it's harder to use. And we needed some private channels for vendors to be able to communicate without, crossing over to other vendor channels. We needed public channels so that everyone could talk to each other. And how could we really move forward the conversation at a perpetual level? And Slack's just a really great tool for that, which is great for Xeon, and that's fantastic. But as you found out for your business, it's a really fantastic way to manage information flow within a company. It's effectively like a chat tool, but everything we do as a company happens in Slack. So we have project channels, we have design services channels, we have service channels, we have management channels. And people participate in the channel. And you just come in, you can see everything from beginning to end. When you go away on vacation is my favorite part. You can completely disconnect. And when you come back in, you just pick up where you left off in the channel. There's no compiling 50,000 emails on a topic to sort out where you were in that conversation. Ron, you just hired some new people. You want to bring them involved to a project.
Who did I hire, Chris?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you hired somebody new.
No, I did. What was her name?
Oh, I apologize. I don't know.
You don't know? Okay. Andrea.
You told me I'm supposed to tell jokes about her or something.
Yeah, no, not about her. You're supposed to tell jokes because we have to make this fun and lively. That was her feedback to us.
Andrea, I apologize. I forgot your name, but we'll tell some jokes for you.
There you go. But no, you made an interesting comment when we were just prepping to go live here, and you said, so when you hire new people, how do you get those folks introduced to, say, the history of the dialogue about a customer or a project? And I had never thought of Slack that way, but that's so neat. You now could add, let's say, Andrea to the projects that she would be involved with or the clients she'd be involved with, and now she could go back and read all the historical data as it relates to all the communication from all the various internal conversations happening about that client and their work. And that's such a neat tool that we have that can do that. And
hugely powerful.
It's hugely powerful. So this is not a Slack commercial by any means, but we're big fans and converts. I also love that on a weekly, I don't know if it's weekly or monthly, I think it's weekly, they send out a nurturing email to help you and I, as users of the software, remember how important it is to us. And right now, my firm, although we've only been fully onboarded maybe for about 6 months at this point, we're sending internally about 6,000 messages a week in Slack. So it's clearly a lot of communications being captured there. Now,
if you manage a team, it's crucial. I can't imagine doing it without it.
Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of neat tools, but it's one of the neater ones, and it seems to be an tool right now for small. I don't want to say small business, maybe any size business, right?
For sure, scale is quite large. Yeah.
Now, you guys are based in Manhattan, and I know that working in the big city has its challenges, particularly as it relates to commuting to projects and, getting your crews with their supplies and their bags of tools and all their gear, getting them to projects. I frankly don't know how you do it. So I'd be curious how you do handle that. A lot of our integrators around the world or around the country, they put their stuff in a van and they drive out to the job site, and it's as easy as that. I don't think New York-based dealers have that luxury. But so if you could talk about that, and then one other extra detail I learned from you in conversations preparing for this is that you guys only run one van or one service truck, and that seems maybe small, low compared to a 30, 40 man operation, or what I would consider normal. So how do you guys do that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So commuting in Manhattan is fascinating. Most people don't own cars. I don't, which is very strange. I grew up in Los Angeles. Everyone owns a car. If you don't own one, you might own two. And in thinking about moving around New York City, everything is done on a subway. And so we send our service techs out with monthly subway passes, $121 per person, whether it's a technician or a service technician. And they can just freely move about the city. It actually provides a lot of efficiency. It's faster than moving around in a car. There's no parking, there's no tickets. Moving product becomes a little bit more tricky. We do have a van. We only have one. We don't need to deliver product to sites every day. We don't need to deliver tools to a site every day. You can take a job box to a site and leave it there with your tools. And sometimes in the case of a service technician, they might be using a roller bag that they can actually take on the subway. So it's a really fantastic method. When we find that we get outside of that, we start using things like zip cars for people to commute.
What is a zip car?
Okay. So zip cars are a little credit card, and where you find a zip car, it has a parking spot. You tap into the car, you can take that car, and when you return it, it returns back to its same parking spot. And you can use that car by the hour, and it can be $12 an hour. So you don't have to rent a car, you just have to have a zip car membership. And they have zip cars parked all over the city. It's really fantastic.
So your techs take zip cars to job sites?
If they're far enough away, but most things are serviced right on a subway. I would say 95% of our projects are serviced on a subway.
Wow. Okay. No, that's fascinating.
It's totally different. I can't imagine it anywhere else, right? It wouldn't work in Los Angeles. It wouldn't work in Seattle. It wouldn't work in Miami, but it works here.
Yeah, for sure. Now, one other fascinating maybe detail about your company is your employee retention. And you had shared with me that almost a quarter of your team has been on the team for more than 10 years. Can that be real?
It's amazing. Out of 35 people, I think we have 8 that are currently over 10 years with us. And
how is that? What do you attribute that retention to?
I think it's entirely about the culture that's been created. The founder of the company is Fernando Zaria. He's been with us since the beginning, 17 years deep. And Fernando has a really amazing perspective on work-life balance and treating employees well. We don't call it a family, we call it a team. We operate in a team mentality. We want the best players on the team to work alongside of our other players. And we want to make sure that they feel like they're valued. And that doesn't just come in terms of a salary package or a benefits package. It comes in terms of work-life balance and location. We're based in Union Square. For those that don't know Manhattan, Union Square is quite central. It allows a lot of easy access via the subways, which helps in kind of making sure we don't have long commutes or longer than necessary or multiple subways to get in and out of the office. The culture around Union Square itself is fantastic. It's a big park, and our office literally looks over that park. And in a city where everything's kind of the concrete jungle, having access to that green space so close to us is definitely a nice thing. And then it's the way that people work as a team, right? You have retention like that as a function of good hiring policy. And good hiring policy will mean that it might take you longer to find that employee, but once you find them, you tend to keep them forever. And that's really our goal. We don't
clarifying that a little bit, like what some of the basic outlines of your hiring policies. I mean, I'll speak here at One Firefly. We take hiring and the process of finding, great talent. We take it very seriously. But in my observation, not every company does. They, kind of shoot from the hip. What do you guys do, if you don't mind sharing?
I think it's twofold. The shooting from the hip is sometimes necessary to fill a role to scale for a moment. But obviously then if you're only scaling for a moment, you might scale back down. So in terms of longevity, I think the cultural fit's really important. So the first step is to bring somebody into the office and have them meet with somebody who's been with the company for a very long time. And we think about people not just in terms of do they meet the specific demands necessary on a CV, right? Do they have the technical skills required or the educational background? It's a question of who are they going to work with on the team? What other teams do they need to interface with? And I think about leaving that new employee in the room with all of those people. And then I leave the room, they all interact, and that person then leaves. I come back into the room. Does everybody in that room go, wow, what a great guy. That's an amazing human being. We'd like to go out and grab drinks with that guy or woman as it might be. Or do they say, Chris, are you an idiot? Why on earth would you put that person in this room with us?
Is it usually pretty glaringly obvious? Do you find that it's fairly straightforward whether they're a good cultural fit for Cloud9 Smart or whether they are or they are not?
I think so. And it's not just done by one person, it's done by multiple people. So through the interviewing process, we have a gentleman named Jordan Wills. Jordan's been with us for a long time. He's also the head of our marketing department. Jordan is our cultural guru. And so Jordan meets with every employee. And if Jordan doesn't feel like this person is going to be a fit, they're probably not. Now, you might be able to fool Jordan during an hour interview, maybe, right? Maybe that happens. Now go try and fool the person who's hiring you and their opinion of you, and then go try and fool a third person. Right. And so usually in the process of that, across maybe 3 hours and 3 interviews, I think you get a really good understanding. And if somebody has a red flag, do you really need to hire that person, or is there another option? And I think that that's a really good conversation is, are we taking a long play at this or a short-sighted version?
Right. No, I appreciate that. I think there's a lot of good advice there. And don't forget, if you're watching on Facebook, thank you for watching live. And also, please like this post and please share this post or this Facebook Live out there so that your friends and associates that you're connected to on Facebook can also listen to Chris and learn some valuable takeaways regarding running a very successful integration business. Now, Chris, I want to kind of go a different direction here for a moment, if you will allow me. And
Sure.
That is, I know RMR, recurring monthly revenue is a big focus of our industry. There's at least a lot of talk about it. I don't know that there's a lot of action yet, but there's a lot of talk. And your business, Cloud9, you and Fernando and your team have really taken some unique approaches to building a recurring revenue base, or at least trying to build a recurring revenue base. Do you mind talking a little bit about what you guys are doing and how you're going about that?
Absolutely. First, the credit is due to Fernando and his vision as an entrepreneur. He realizes and continues to realize that the ability of our company to be stable financially is of the utmost importance. And one of the ways that we do that is by not basing all of our revenues on project-based revenues. Allowing ourselves to have that flexibility to win some big fish and then win smaller fishes along the way is entirely about building an amazing foundation of recurring revenue stream. And we started that actually from the commercial side of what we did. So if you look at the commercial side of our business, there are several variations of recurring revenue that we have, and then we can get into the residential version. So when we just look at a commercial client, let's think about somebody moving office spaces, taking on more space, developing out an existing space. When they look at that, they need a voice and data circuit that is piping internet into the space as well as potentially phone lines. There's a recurring element to that, and we sell that. There's the phone system itself. Some phone systems don't have a recurring component and some do, like voice over IP. We sell that. And then we have a managed services side of our business, which is basically where companies outsource their IT to us. And in that way, we have a recurring revenue base for dozens of clients that outsource their IT. That last element would be a conference room. And as soon as we sell a non-recurring project like a conference room, then there's the maintenance of that conference room. And in selling in a commercial world, the benefit to having that is those people operate during your normal business hours. So having a recurring business set up around people that are on your same time schedule is fantastic. So the non-recurring allows us to have that flow. When we come to a residential division, and this is where I think most of the integrators that might be watching this today would like to take note, is the same thing is true for the residential client, which is none of the clients that we have lack the capacity to change their own oil, right? They could do that if they wanted to, but that's not what they need to be doing with their time. So someone else needs to be managing, say, that process for their car. The same thing is true about the technology for their home. So we look at installing a system as an opportunity to develop a tremendous product to the client, but then it's a tremendous opportunity for us to provide amazing ongoing support and service to that customer on an ongoing basis. And if we do that, we can charge accordingly for it. And then the next part then is you realize that you're doing a good job by the number of repeat clients that you have and who you've done multiple projects for.
What percentage of your residential customers sign or agree to some recurring maintenance or service contract, and they're paying you monthly and or maybe they do it in an annual payment?
Yeah, we do it annually, and the answer is 100% of the clients today do it. In other words, we don't do break fix work. So if you're a client who has done a system with us and you don't want to continue doing ongoing maintenance, then we'll gladly hand all of the information necessary to service your system to somebody. But someone needs to manage that for that client if it's not us. So 100% of our clients are on it. Now we have some older clients where when we used to do much smaller, really scaled down systems where it really doesn't fit, but then they don't fit the current model moving forward, which requires that we have that ongoing maintenance agreement.
Do you have an appliance of some type that you guys have adopted in terms of placing it into the client's home that gives you visibility to network performance and or system performance? And if so, do you mind sharing what that is?
We do. Our current version of that hardware product is the Package Backpack solution. It's built into their routers and they have a wireless controller that has it. And what we did when we took that product line on was retroactively looked backwards at all of our clients and then put the network appliance into those client sites. So in the commercial space, we use Cisco Meraki to manage everything. It gives us one portal. And in the residential division, we use Package, and that gives us that portal for all of our residential clients.
Interesting. Yeah, here at One Firefly, our IT person uses Cisco Meraki to manage our network for our servers. But
yeah, having a good solution. So because we come from the managed services side, it's entirely about platform. I just had a client meeting yesterday. Client will sign a multiple six-figure deal with us. He looked at me and he said, "How tied in are you to Package?" And I said, "Quite, because it's in every one of our jobs. And to do your job differently presents an issue for us at a service platform afterwards, and in an ongoing basis, how we can take care of the hardware." So for us, it's about consistency of the rollout and the implementation.
Why would a customer care what your network hardware was? Was that a particularly tuned in customer that had a preference?
He was actually a really smart guy, actually more educated than most of our clients with respect to the technology and the brands and the pieces that go into a system.
Sure.
And he was more curious, I think. And once we explained it to him, it made perfect sense to him. Most clients don't care. And in fact, just like anything, if we do the job right, the client doesn't know where the rack is. The client doesn't know what's in the rack. They just know about the experience at the end of it. And that's all they really care about by and large.
So, Chris, I'm respectful of your time. I know we're reaching the end here. I just have a couple of more questions if you have a few more minutes.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, Cloud9 Smart employs a full-time marketing person. You made reference to the person as kind of your captain of culture of sorts, at least from an HR standpoint. That's not common, right? So a lot of integrators do not have a full-time marketing person. What led to you guys deciding to go that direction? And maybe at a high level, can you talk about some of the marketing activities that you guys do on a regular or ongoing basis?
100%. We're really fortunate. Jordan Wills has been with us a very long time, and he started off answering phones with us. But Jordan is not merely somebody only capable of answering phones. And as he grew in his tenure with us, we started to realize what his other skill sets were, and he lent himself very well to marketing. Jordan maintains our website, all of it, creates every page, creates all of our landing pages for social, runs our Google AdWords campaign, creates a weekly newsletter. We actually create 3 pieces of content every single week. Jordan writes all of that, creates the actual form, and then sends it out to everybody. And we create an every other week newsletter to architects, which we specifically focus on because it's a great annuity style relationship to our business. He runs all of our social campaigns, and creates all of our video content. If you've ever been to our website, we actually create quite a bit of video content. So I look at the brand feel of what we have, and it's more than just informational. It's more than just purely having a pulse. It's about being entirely current. And how do we respond in real time to changing information so that we can keep our clients interested and engaged, and so that when people look at us compared to our competitors, they're able to see that there's a clear differentiating factor, not just in the aesthetic of what we do, but in the fact that we're here and active and prosperous every day. And so I can't value that enough. And when I think about our total marketing budget, it actually doesn't seem that high until I factor in Jordan's salary. And then I realize what our monthly spend is. And it's actually, in my opinion, quite good. And I've compared it against other people of varying sizes and scales, and it lines up really well with their marketing budgets. So conceptually, if somebody doesn't have a Jordan, no problem. Go and hire a Ron Callis at One Firefly and have them help you.
I'll slip you $20 later for that one.
and I couldn't mention it enough. And as I meet other executives from various companies, not just in our industry, they talk a lot about things like Google AdWords and their web presence as being huge factors in the growth curves that they've had over, say, the last 10 years or over the last 5 years. Yeah. And if you're not actively invested in that part of your business, how do you plan on growing? And I find that to be a really limiting factor. And sometimes it's a self-limiting belief. People are really hesitant to spend that kind of money because they don't understand it themselves as a business owner. That's why you hire somebody who's smarter than you in it. You let them tell you what to do. And if you can let go of that piece of control and put that money on the table as your table stakes in the game, I think by and large, if you do it with somebody who's trustworthy, you'll end up with great results.
What would you say to the integrators out there that are currently not doing any email marketing? I have an opinion that it's one of the more important things a small business can be doing, and specifically integrators. Do you share that belief? And what are your thoughts around that?
I think that email marketing is truly important, and it's an element of a strategy. So it's not the only element of a strategy. Mm-hmm. One of the things that people might not realize about email marketing is not the actual email itself, the open rate, the click rate, etc. It's the fact that that email content then lives on your website, and that then creates organic search engine optimization. And so choosing your topics wisely, choosing the language that's in your content wisely is much more important than purely sending an email, right? Sure. The idea of you sending out an email that we're here, that's fine. But why don't we pick topics that are fascinating to people? And when they're fascinating to people and we become a thought leader in our space, we're going to end up with more people naturally ending up at our website, not even from the email itself, but because it then resides in our blog content. And we take a huge push in that direction for that reason.
Now that's awesome. I agree with everything you just said, and I hope a lot of our industry watches this episode because I concur with your points on many accounts. So kudos to you guys to being ahead of the curve on that front.
Thanks to Jordan. He's the one who makes it happen.
All right, Jordan, virtual high five. All right, so a couple more. Chris, you were just appointed to the Xeon board of advisors. What are you hoping to accomplish in that role? What goals do you have for that position?
Yeah, it's an honor to be included in the Xeon community in the first place. We're a bunch of really interesting people with great businesses, and I really like being able to be at a leadership position. I'd like to think that we don't ever do anything just a little bit. We have a laser focus and we like to go deep. And when we get involved in something, we really like to try and make an impact. I think Xeon's a fantastic group. And so how do we help be a thought leader in it? How do we help consolidate information from all of the members up and then share that back down. Lots of people have great ideas. Let's go ahead and try and get it implemented. And so I think Richard leads a fantastic team. He's got a great board structure that includes both vendors and dealers. And there's a monthly call cycle that allows us to share kind of a state of the union, what the current projects are within the team, and then what are upcoming meetings that everyone might be able to benefit from. And I think the next version of what I'd like to help is to continue to develop relationships within members of Xeon. I think I've developed probably a good solid 15 to 20 relationships within that group, but there's many more that I'd like to continue on from there. One of the benefits is travel jobs. We don't currently travel outside of our area to execute a project, but we do design services where we engineer and build up the plan set for projects. Well, a good example would actually be we had a client here in Manhattan who was building a house in Aspen. We did the design and engineering. We went out and actually helped bid level all of the audio video contractors' proposals and chose an Xeon dealer member to execute for that client. And they executed the same level of job that we would have executed here in Manhattan with the same design and engineering skill. So to me, it was a really great opportunity. And I look to the Xeon community to help us solve that travel conundrum of how do we help clients execute their vision in remote locations. And there's many other things. How do we choose the right vendors? How do we work really well with vendors to help solve, say, a service problem? How do we make sure that I'm not the only dealer with a given particular issue on a product? Or if I am, how did somebody else solve it? I think it's a really great community for all sorts of reasons.
So last question. This is the biggie. I understand that you're a runner.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any big races coming up? Any marathons or half marathons? Or what's your poison? Do you do sprints or do you do the long stuff?
I do them all. My training runs are 5Ks, 10Ks, and shorter races like that. This Sunday I ran 19 miles up and over the George Washington Bridge.
On one day?
And one day, one outing.
Holy moly.
This coming Sunday, I have the Staten Island half marathon. So there's 13 miles, and then I'll probably tie on 6 or 7 more after. And then in early November is the New York City Marathon, and it'll be my second time running that marathon.
When you are going to do this half marathon, that's 13.1 miles, right? Or something like that? Mm-hmm. What will be your speed per mile? What will be your average?
If I can run that in about 7:45 miles, I'll be happy. And if I can do it in under 7.5, I'll be ecstatic.
Okay. What's your fastest mile ever?
I ran
when you were 15 and you were full of testosterone and spit and vinegar and giving it everything. How fast were you?
Actually, my fastest mile was about a month ago. And we run it down Fifth Avenue. They do it once a year, and they run it by age group. And I ran the Fifth Avenue 1 mile in about 5:53, I think.
Okay.
So, yeah, that was pretty fast.
That's pretty fast. That's pretty awesome. Well, Chris, thank you for being an awesome guest on Automation Unplugged and your willingness to share so freely your thoughts and ideas on how to run a better business. And really appreciated having you on.
Thank you so much, Ron. I really appreciate it. If anybody in the community has any questions, feel free to contact Ron or contact us directly. And I'm happy to share our playbook, actually. We believe that the rising tide thing is true. And if you guys want to come and learn, we'd love to learn from you just the same. So,
Chris, how can folks get in touch with you? Do you want to leave any contact information or we can also put it in the notes here or the comments on the live feed. But
feel free to come to our website. It's cloud9smart.com, and that's the number 9 not spelled out. So cloud9smart.com. And then you can also contact me at chris@cloud9smart.com. I'm happy to speak with anybody that's interested, or if you'd like to talk about Xeon, or if you happen to be in Manhattan and want to join our executives group that we're a part of. There's all kinds of interesting things that we think are helping to push our industry and our business forward. And we'd love to chat with other people who are like-minded.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks so much.
Well, folks, there you have it. That was Chris Smith, VP of Business Development at the very innovative Cloud9 Smart in New York City. And that name's peculiar, right? Or at least I thought it was. But I found out from Chris, the name is Cloud9 Smart because they have two divisions at the moment. They have Cloud9 Smart Home. Home is the residential division. Then they have Cloud9 Smart. Actually, I'm probably going to get it wrong here. Chris, is it commercial or business? Office. See, it was none of the above. So Cloud9 Smart Office. A very creative name. Obviously, a lot of thoughts going into running that business. So thank you again for joining me, ladies and gentlemen. And I will see you early next week for my next episode of Automation Unplugged. I believe we're having Dave Padego from Cedia on. But just stay tuned. Watch our website and or watch our Facebook page for those updates. Thanks again. Have a great rest of your week and a great weekend.